The United States and the Taliban are poised to sign the historic agreement in a short while. This peace deal would potentially pave the way to end America's longest fought war in Afghanistan. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has arrived in Doha for the landmark peace deal today, and in a short while from now, the representatives of the Taliban, the U.S. and NATO will be holding a joint press conference. Meanwhile, the representatives of Taliban said that they're looking forward to the deal to bring peace and stability in Afghanistan.
امیر اولو افغانستان ته سوله راولو اول سره څخه پیغام د سولې او د آرامۍ و دا جګړه پر موږ باندې تحمیل شوې ده. افغانستان اشغال شوی ده او تر اشغال مخکې د اسلامي نظام موجود و او د امریکایانو له لوري په دې افغانستان باندې یرغل وسو. دا دربدري و خشونت و هر څه د اشغال دې به تر اوسه پورې د هغوی سره هېڅ توافق نه ده شوی، ځکه چې دا یو خارجي بود ده چې دغه پای ته ورسېږي. له دې وروسته به بیا بین الافغاني مذاکراتو ته لار هواره.
The reduction of violence agreement between the U.S. and the Taliban went into effect 7 days ago, and its success paved the way for today's signing. The delegation has already arrived in Doha and is expected to be signed in a few hours from now. The entire world will have its eyes on this event, and WION World is the only Indian network that will be bringing you live updates straight from Qatar. As the Afghan peace deal is signed in Doha today, back home, the people of Afghanistan are viewing this historic moment with skepticism. They fear that tensions between Afghani political leaders could lead to further violence.
Sadly, this process is moving forward in a wrong time for the free Afghanistan. We had a very turbulent election in Afghanistan, and as you know, both main runners claimed victory in here, and this unity could definitely give a chance for the Taliban to exploit and invest and push on the disunity of Kabul. But I really hope that the leaders in Afghanistan should also show some sort of maturity to solve these problems in a very non-violent way as soon as possible.
Talks between hardline Islamists and the United States to end the war make it likely that any pact would allow the Taliban to return to some role in the government. But women who've experienced freedom and achievements since the collapse of the Taliban back in 2001 have voiced concerns regarding the peace agreement.
اول خب پذیرش خانم‌ها در جامعه به شکل وسیعی که امروز است، این یکی از نگرانی است که امکان دارد طالبان با این سطح نپذیرد. و دوم مهمی است که وقتی که طالبان میآید نگرانی های زنانه اونا هم مثل که حال جدی گرفته میشه و برشان سهم داده میشه، صدایشون شنیده میشه. آیا عمیق قسم با اینمی طرز دید خانم‌ها رو میپذیره یا نمیپذیره؟ نگرانی واضحی است که نشه که یک کتله بزرگ تحصیل یافته، تحصیل کرده و فعال جامعه افغانی از افغانستان دوباره خارج شود و افغانستان باز به یک کشور تاریک تبدیل.
Meanwhile, in Jalalabad, which has suffered from attacks and instability in the recent years, crowds gathered to celebrate the upcoming peace deal.
دا هغه خوخي و چې موږ ته امیدونه راکوي چې له دې وروسته به دلته افغان وژنه پای مومي، دلته به ورور وژنه پای مومي، دلته به میندې نور نه بوري کېږي، دلته به خویندې نور نه بېوروره کېږي، او بالاخره به که ژوند یې له خیره سره د هفتې په ورځ به دلته د یو دایمي سولې تړون لاسلیک کېږي او نور به افغانان هوسا ژوند ولري.
And now we're being joined by our correspondent Anas Malik, live from Doha in Qatar. Anas, talk to us. You are standing at that spot where the deal will be signed in a matter of a few hours from now.
Absolutely, Krishna. It's a historic day for the people of Afghanistan, and just in some hours from now, to be precise, in exactly 1 hour and 4 minutes from now, is where the event would be starting, where the historic agreement for peace in Afghanistan would be signed. Now, I'm standing inside that very hall. If I can show you as well, this is that exact hall where the peace deal between US and Taliban will be signed, and you can see that there are those two chairs that are there. On one of them would be the American representative, and on the other would be the Taliban representative. You can see that there are people who have already guests are already piling in. We saw the Japanese delegation coming in. We saw the Afghan civil society delegation coming in. And the Taliban delegations, their guest lists have also been coming in time and again. We've seen they're entering and exiting from this very hall. And additionally, we also saw the Japanese envoy. We saw the Niger's as the representative from the SCO Secretariat. The SC Secretary General is also here. Additionally, we saw Turkish Foreign Minister in the lobby of the hotel, of this very hotel, and we are expecting. You understand that he will be here shortly. As I talk to you there, I can show you as well that there are delegations that continue to walk in from this hall, and you can see that there's media along with those media that is trying to film and capture these moments, these historical moments. You see that media from all across the world is here, regardless of wherever they belong to. We've seen media from as far as Spain as well. We've seen about 300 plus media representatives are here. So in just some moments from now, this hall will be jam-packed. It will be totally full to the brim. And those seats right behind me, those two seats, there would be it wouldn't be wrong to say that from the Taliban's end that they would be trying to define the fate of the people of Afghanistan. It wouldn't be wrong to say and trying to end this 19-year-old long ordeal of the people of Afghanistan, who have suffered immensely both at the hands of the Taliban and at the hands of the foreign forces. We've seen the UNAMA report as well that just this past year, in 2019, there were more than 10,000 plus civilian casualties. This was the fourth year consecutively that UNAMA has said that there were more than 10,000 plus civilian casualties in a year's time. So in some moments from now, we would be seeing historical moments being inked, being penned right at this stage, right behind me. There's a photo session that is even now as I speak to you is going on. If I can just show you as well that there is a photo session that is going on of representatives of different countries. They would also want themselves to be registered and be taken a note for the fact that they were here, the fact that they witnessed such a historical agreement. We saw the Uzbek, the special representative of the Uzbek president also going in a while ago to this hall. So all of the dignitaries are made to sit in front. Then so right in front would be the dignitaries, the first tier, the second tier. Then beyond that are the delegates, those who are accompanying these dignitaries. And then there would be media who would be on the last three rows are designated for the media. And besides that, the gallery above, the balcony above is also designated for the media. So in a while from now, the historic, the moment is very near, where the historic agreement for peace in Afghanistan would be inked here, right here in Doha. Yes, Krishna.
Anas Malik reporting live from Doha, where the deal is all set to be signed in about an hour's time from on. We also have our team of reporters, Siddhant Sibal, our principal diplomatic correspondent, reporting live from India's capital, Delhi. We also have our Afghanistan correspondent, Mustafa Kazemi, joining us in the broadcast. We also have our very special guest, Mr. Parthasarthi, as always, former diplomat and former information advisor at Prime Minister's office, joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Parthasarthi, thank you so much for being with us on the broadcast on this big day. Talk to us about the gravitas of this particular deal. It is being viewed with skepticism by people back home in Afghanistan, but at the end of the day, it is the need of the hour, so to speak.
Well, let me tell you, based on personal experience, I view it with a measure of healthy skepticism. I was involved during the hijacking of AC-814 of negotiating with the Taliban ambassador in Pakistan when I was India's High Commissioner there. I found them utterly unreliable. I found them duplicitous. That is how we handled it. They actually helped the hijackers. They played the propaganda of the hijackers throughout this hijacking. So my experience with them was not pleasant. It was some very devious minds behind a veil of piety. That's how I regard it. But time has moved on. 20 years have gone by since then. What we are seeing now is a war-weary Afghanistan and a war-weary world fed up of this continuing violence in Afghanistan. And, I've been to Afghanistan on at least 5 occasions since the Americans got there, and one feels very sorry for people, whether they are up in the valleys of Tajikistan or in Kabul or further down south in Jalalabad and so on. So all I can say is that yes, it's been a bitter war. The Afghan constitution has had its problems. As you note, the last elections were bitterly contested, allegations of fraud. But the duo of two rivals in the election running the government continue. President Ghani and the Tajik Afghan leader Abdullah as the chief executive. So let us see how this plays out, because President Ghani has won the election and Abdullah was in the opposition.
Right.
And since he has won the election, we respect it. But I think everything is going to depend on whether Pakistan continues playing its game of allowing the Taliban to use its territory as safe havens. And I may say the most dangerous Taliban group operates from Pakistan. It is the Haqqani network. And Sirajuddin Haqqani functions out of Pakistan. He does not even live in Afghanistan. He's said to be in the tribal areas, and the Pakistanis are said to not know. But everybody knows where Sirajuddin Haqqani moves around. So let us hope this holds. Let us hope that the Taliban accept the constitution of Afghanistan. They have not yet done it. They believe in being above the law and beyond the law and beyond the constitution. So much is going to depend on how you bring them into the process. If they want to take a part of governance, then let them stand for elections like everybody else, including President Ghani, have stood. It is not going to be easy. This is first the problem. Then the other point is that the Taliban is almost exclusively Pashtun. And then you have the Tajiks, you have the Hazaras, you have the Uzbeks, all looking for, and of course the Turkmen, all looking for their own roles.
Right.
So one hopes a system of governance emerges. I would also hope that even as the Americans leave, they leave enough air power behind, along with support for the legally and lawfully elected Taliban government.
Right.
The peace process should be within the Afghans themselves, and they have a process called the Loya Jirga, which is universally accepted. Let the Loya Jirga decide how to move ahead.
Partha Sarathi joining us live on the broadcast. Please stay with us, sir. Let me now take that point across to our Afghanistan correspondent Mustafa Kazemi, who joins us on the broadcast. Mustafa Kazemi, will the Loya Jirga be eventually called into question to form a systematic governance in Afghanistan?
Krishna, it has not been discussed yet openly, but there are discussions on the social level within the Afghans that for the Taliban to retake power or take a share in the power of the coming government, there has to be a national vote about the same. And on the other side, there's the skepticism of whether or not the Taliban are going to be as friendly as integrated past enemies that would come and live with the same people who have bled because of the same war waged by the Taliban in their cities. It is a matter of time once the intra-Afghan talks with the Taliban start, that will be when we will find out and be able to know would it go to a low Jirga vote, or it would, as expected by some of the hopeful Afghans, it would just go on as normal and peace will prevail after 20 years of a bloody war.
Mustafa Kazemi, our Afghanistan correspondent, joining us on the broadcast. Let's now take this across to our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, who's been waiting patiently by on the broadcast. Siddhant, Prime Minister Modi has written today. There has been a lot of, has written to Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani as well, congratulating him. And talk to us in terms of what are you hearing from the Indian government sources with less than an hour to go for this deal to be signed, where India will be present at the high table?
Well, India is cautiously watching the developments in Doha, in Kabul, what will happen, because it is now understood that Taliban will play some role in the Afghan government, in the Afghan society. So far, we know that India has no ties with Taliban. India has been completely backing the Afghan government, saying that it is an Afghan-controlled and Afghan-owned peace process. It should be like that, but we have seen an increasingly isolated Afghan government. But even as we speak, we know that the Indian Foreign Secretary is in Kabul. He met the leadership there, the stakeholders there. He, in fact, signed 2 MOUs also for infrastructure development, where India has a major lead when it comes to infrastructure development, from capacity building to projects like the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam in the western province of Herat, or the Afghan parliament in Kabul. India has done its more than needed, and we have seen India being lauded for that also. In the common man, common Afghans' heart and mind, India is considered a very, very close friend. But the big geopolitical game is about to start now. If Taliban comes there, what will be the policy of India? I have spoken to a lot of people, including India's former envoy to Afghanistan, Amar Sinha, who said that if Taliban agrees to talk to the Afghan government, then India can reconsider. But the big question is, will Taliban speak to the Ghani government? Because as of now, it's a strict no-no from Taliban side. They consider them as a puppet government. So where does India stand? India will be patiently watching. India is represented at that big meeting, the big signing ceremony, which is going to start in about 1 hour's time. Indian envoy will be representing New Delhi. The Qatari government had invited India, but so far it is wait and watch. But soon do expect India to react. Do expect an official statement as well from India after the signing of the deal in Doha, that can see the American troops leave Afghanistan after 19 years. And this is something that India has highlighted many times with America, that the gains made in 19 years, the democratic gains in 19 years in Afghanistan should not be let away, should not be washed away. And this was particularly highlighted by the Indian Prime Minister during the visit of the US President Donald Trump. He was in Delhi just last week on Tuesday. Both the leaders had a meeting, and the drawdown in troops was discussed considerably. In fact, a question was also asked to the US President Donald Trump in his famous Delhi press conference, to which he replied that India backs and supports the deal which is happening between the Taliban and the United States. And India also has appreciated that where US is coming from. It has been 19 years. The US, of course, is tired and is losing patience. And it is an election year in the United States, and US President Donald Trump is keen to get back all the troops back home rather than any body bags, because that can impact his re-election.
Principal diplomatic correspondent bringing the India perspective live from India's capital, Delhi. Let me now take this back to our special guest, Mr. Parthasarathy, who continues to be with us on the broadcast. Mr. Parthasarathy, talk to us about what's in it for India, because India technically finds itself at crossroads when it comes to its strategy in Afghanistan. It has always dealt with anybody except the Taliban in the history. It backed the Afghan communists in the 80s. It backed the Northern Alliance in the 90s, which both turned futile. And now it is forced to deal with the Taliban. It sent its representatives to share a table with the Taliban for the first time in November 2018. And now again it's at the table for the signing of the peace deal.
Well, let's put it this way. Our experience with the Taliban has not been pleasant. I told you about what they did during the hijacking of IC-814. They were totally stooges in the hands of the Pakistani ISI. And don't forget the man they asked, we released, and that was a great blunder on our part. Masood Azhar followed up soon thereafter with the attack on the Indian Parliament. So that's a very bitter experience for us. I think we should not be in a hurry to rush into anything. Wait and watch, but at the same time, I want to make a point. The popularity of the Indians, because we have asked for nothing. We have built dams. We have the electricity which comes to Kabul through the high mountains in Central Asia. Those transmission lines have been built by us. We have contributed to midday meals, to the running of schools. So ours has just been basically welfare of the people. And let me say, on the many occasions I've been, whether it is way up north in the Panjshir Valley or way down south as far as the Jalalabad and so on are concerned, Indians are respected because we may not have done them huge everything they wanted, but we've done them a huge amount of good and asked for nothing in return. So that goodwill we retain, but let's not forget we are dealing with an armed, ruthless group, the Taliban, which beheads people at the way they did it earlier on. So I think with Najibullah. So I think let us be real. We would like to see the Afghans united. You know what worries me is the Taliban is an entire Pashtun force, and we don't want different parts of Afghanistan going and living apart in under these ruthless Taliban, and they have no support in the other ethnic provinces at all. So they are a Pakistani creation, and no self-respecting Tajik or Uzbek or Hazara is going to vote for them. More so the Hazaras who are Shia and have been at the receiving end of pretty much of cruelty from them. So so the other thing is, I would expect the United Nations, the Americans and the others to keep a very close eye on the Haqqani network, because the most dangerous network of the Taliban is the Haqqani network, and it operates out of Pakistan.
Right. Former diplomat and former information advisor at Prime Minister's office, Mr. G. Parthasarathy, joining us with that perspective. And with that, we've completely run out of time here on this edition of the newscast here on WION World is One. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.